Today's episode is brought to you in part by PhilpMarchingFX.com. With 20 years' experience designing for your indoor and outdoor marching arts teams, their passion is to help creatively showcase your performers while making performances memorable for your audiences. For drill, staging, prop fabrication, and so much more, check out PhilpMarchingFX.com. That's PHILP marching, the letters FX.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flags in a Gym, a podcast dedicated to all things color guard. My name is Eric. I'm your host and resident color guard nerd. And for today's episode, we are continuing our program showcase series with Orlando Visual Performing Arts, who is returning to the activity after a 10-year hiatus. I sat down with some members of their team to talk about the previous era, the upcoming era, Florida premiere, and more. So sit back, relax, and let's talk some color guard. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Doing well, doing well. So I am sitting down with some members of the team from Orlando Visual Performing Arts. We have Chris Cook, Stephen Porter, Randy Nelson, and Aaron Park. And this is going to be an interesting conversation because Orlando Visual is a returning organization, currently not an existing one. So it's going to be an interesting conversation just because it's a different situation I've ever encountered. Before we get started, I'll have you all give you everyone a quick introduction to yourself. 30 seconds to a minute of who you are, your history, and the activity. So I'll start with Randy.
I've been around for a couple of years, done a couple of things. I was the director of Choctawhatchee for 26 years, all those teams, and worked with Northeast Independent. I've been with the Pegasus organization, Timber Creek High School, a whole bunch of organizations, Icon Independent World, served on the WJI Board of Directors for a long time, and served as president for a few years. Independent designer, consultation, clinician these days, and enjoying life.
That is quite the resume. Chris.
So I have been in the activity for about 2 decades at this point. I started off at Colonial High School down in Orlando. After that, I marched Fahrenheit Independent and the first iteration of Orlando Visual. I marched Crown, and then I spent 1 year up at Pride of Cincinnati. As far as teaching goes, I've taught drum corps from Troopers to Phantom to Crown to now I'm at Cavaliers doing some choreography for them. And I teach some independent groups as well. I've been with the Pegasus organization, Cypress Independent, Noir, Reverie, quite a few different groups around.
Awesome. Stephen.
Hi. I grew up in the Pinellas County area, and what brought me to Orlando was going to music school at UCF. And while I was there, I was also dabbling in learning a lot about dance and already teaching some local teams, including Colonial. But one of my teams that I started was Lyman, and it just worked out that at the same time that I was finishing up school, I had my foot already in the door where I was working part-time. And since then, I've been the full-time dance teacher and color guard instructor at Lyman High School this is going on my 26th year.
And Aaron, how about you?
Yeah, so I began my color guard journey back in 2008, 2009. I'm from Plant City, Florida, and I graduated from Durant High School. So marched there for 4 years. Once I graduated, I started college at UCF, and I marched Pegasus for 4 years. So I did the open guard for 2 years in 2013 and 2014, and then moved on to the World Guard in 2015 and 2016. I marched with the Boston Crusaders for a year in 2013. And I've taught at a few different high schools in Florida, most notably Bloomingdale High School. I was there for about 4 years and then moved out to Texas, taught a group in Texas, McKinney High School for a couple of years. And most recently, upon moving back to Florida, I was the director of Pegasus A. And professionally, I'm like a teacher by trade. So taught high school for a while here at Bloomingdale when I was doing the color guard there with some really great friends that I learned a lot from, and was a teacher out in Texas, and now I've kind of moved into like informal education and museums. So I come from a really large education background, which I've been able to translate over to the color guard world, which has been really fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, just hearing all the names you all are throwing out there, I'm like, wow. Like Randy with Choctawhatchee and Northeast, and then I hear Lyman, and then working with tons of drum corps. Very, very impressive resumes across the board. So we do want to talk about the new iteration or whatever we're going to reference. We'll get to that in a little bit of Orlando Visual, but I do want to start with the beginning. That it started in 2011, and were you kind of like the catalyst for the start of the program?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely didn't want to do it alone. And it really was a break off of a whole bunch of students from Lyman and Colonial, I think maybe Lake Howell. I was helping out with a lot of high school programs in that area, and I was already traveling around helping out a lot of independent teams, and my students were asking me, could we keep it in the area and start a team of our own? And so that's really where it got started, I think.
Awesome. And so you and Chris are the current staff that were involved with the previous version of Orlando Visual. Was there anybody else that's here
Yes.
now that was involved with the previous?
Yeah, I had two sisters that had graduated from Lyman High School, Talia and Katya Malspin, who were probably just as much involved.
Absolutely. I feel like it really was the four of us that were kind of the core of that team. Talia and I used to kind of push him to start Porter Independent for the longest time. And it just kind of developed, I think, from there. Katya and Talia are both currently on the board of directors, so they're still involved with the program, which is really cool too.
It debuted in 2011, and so I did a little digging. It's kind of hard to find, but it looks like you all debuted as an independent A guard, like when you first
We
came out,
did. Yeah, we
but
did,
got
yes.
got bumped to open.
Yeah, this happened. We went to our first regional competition, and I thought we had done pretty good. And I think we had won prelims pretty clear. And they came to me and told us that it was going to be our choice that afternoon, that no matter what, this was going to go to the board and that we were most likely going to be moved to open. And so the choice was the following day that we could be placed in open, or we could wait a few weeks for this to become completely official, and that no matter what, it was pretty much assumed that we were going to end up in open class. And so I was like, if we're going to end up there, we might as well start this climb now. So we opted to go ahead and compete the next day in open class.
Wow, so you did prelims and independent A, and then finals was independent open.
Yes.
Yep.
Because when I saw you started as an independent A guard, I'm like, wait, but they medaled in open. That it's like, this is crazy. Yeah, so silver medal. It's a huge amount of success for a first year program. They did promote you to world after that, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
And then for the next few seasons up until 2015 the final season of the first era?
Yeah.
And were you in world for the rest of those seasons?
No, I think we stayed in world for three
2015 both times.
three seasons, and then we moved ourselves down. We weren't getting the same talent coming in, and Chris had moved on. You had moved out of state.
Yeah, that was the year that I went to Go March Pride.
Um, Talia was pursuing law degree. She had moved to Tallahassee. So my core group of people that were working with me were all starting their next parts of their lives, and things were just a little bit different.
And what was the transition like moving from independent A, I'll say that, from independent A to world so quickly? Like, how did you handle that as a director and just kind of as members, even? Because Chris, you were in the program. What was that like? I mean, that's a very wild transition.
It was a really cool time. So there was a lot of people that were, first of all, excited that there was a world team in the area. There were people that were excited that maybe they could do one more season now that the age limit was lifted. And I remember having our first audition, and there was like 100 people at the audition for the world team. It was a little overwhelming. And this is the time where they had even pushed the number up to 40 members, I
Yeah, it was
think, that
40.
could be on a team. And we're looking at cutting 60 people, and we're looking at this and going, oh my gosh, there's so much talent in the room. There were people driving from out of state,
Yeah.
coming to our auditions. It was exciting and a little bit scary for me. I had never put together a team at that level. it felt a little intimidating, and I didn't want to let the performers down. I was trying to do my homework. I would do research. I would work on the material that we were going to work on during the weekend, during the week, because I wanted to be prepared for you. It wasn't the kind of performers that could walk in the room and you could kind of shoot from the hip. It was like you had to be prepared because these were the best performers around coming. So I felt a big job. It was a a big responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. Fun little fact for the listeners. In 2014, your show was sitting on the dock of the bay that used the cover of Sarah Bareilles that Miami Spark just used this past winter. So I was looking through the Instagram and I saw that video. I was like, oh, that's fun. I was like, honestly, I didn't know the song was that old, like her version of it. That was a fun little nugget I found. What was the reasoning for going inactive after the 2015? Was it just too much and kind of left on your own at that point?
I would find myself working all week, having teaching from 7 a.m. to, you know, 3, having the high school rehearsals, and then as soon as I would finish, the independent kids would start coming in at 7, 8, and we would go the rest of the weekend. And I did this for year after year, and no matter what, even though I didn't have to do everything in every rehearsal, there was somebody that had to open up and close, and we were using Lyman High School. We were renting that space, and so I just became that person had, no matter what, that had to be there a lot. And when my core group of people that started this with me started moving away, and it became a lot of on me, I felt like, and it was okay to step back a little bit.
I think it's very difficult especially in this day and age, for people to step back because people have been with programs for so long, and these programs. I mean, we just saw Pride officially call it quits. For after how long? I mean, that'd be a super hard decision. So many people involved with that program, so such a well respected program, and people that had dreams to march there, and it's just like, eventually we get to that point where it's just like, I can't do this anymore. It's like, I'm pushing 40, I'm pushing 50 or however. It's like, I'm done. So no, I respect that decision. When you are just that stressed, it makes complete sense. So we've taken a 10-year break, and now the Guard is returning for the coming 2026 season. And what was the catalyst for bringing the program back? Who kind of said, let's do this again?
So Aaron and I had when we were living out in Texas. We were in the Dallas area for about 5 years. We had talked out there about starting in color guard, and then we moved back to Florida and spent a year teaching around the area. And we still kind of had that itch to start something. And then it got to WGI, and it kind of got to time to like really make the decision: are we gonna go forward with this, and how do we want to approach it? And it just kind of felt right to bring back the name that
We had talked about like coming up with something completely our own. Like that was something
we did.
and we had all of these names, and we were throwing these names around, and nothing really felt right. And so then the Orlando Visual conversation kind of came back up.
Yeah, and I think Randy was
Randy
the one
didn't
that
like any of the names we suggested.
he did not. He hated
I
them.
didn't like a single name. It was like, hey, we need to do Orlando Visual again. We've got a tie-in with Stephen Porter, and people remember it, and we need to stop talking about these other names, which sadly they were just not good. But Orlando Visual just has that ring to it. So
It's really hard to name a program. I mean, I tried and failed to start an independent guard in the Northern Virginia area. And when I was trying to come up with a name, I'm like, what do I call this? Like, you don't want to be. It's like naming a child. It's you want it to stick, and you want people to say, "Oh, that sounds cool. I want to go march there." You don't want to have some ridiculous name. So you've been talking about starting a color guard for a while, having the itch. When did you were like, okay, we're going to do this? Like, when we're going to do Orlando Visual? When did that happen?
I think there had always been kind of like a joke, maybe amongst the Orlando area of, oh, Orlando Visual's going to come back. Orlando Visual's going to come back. But I think it was really after this most recent WGI that we sat down, and Chris and I were like, all right, this is something that's going to happen. So it was very recent.
Yeah, and then that's the perfect. I think that's when everybody gets that itch. It's just, you're watching Date and you're like, I want to do this again. Like, I really want to do this. And you have all those ideas in your head. Oh, I have this show we could put on the floor, and you're like, all right, we're doing this. Like, you just jump in. Are you referring to this new era as anything in particular, like a reboot, a rebirth, or like I called it a part two Electric Boogaloo? Older people will get that joke, but
I don't think anything in particular. No, I like the idea of a rebirth.
Yeah.
Because I think it,
I don't think it's like comeback necessarily.
No, I
It's
think
like I don't know, like
it
a
was
rebirth.
important to us to kind of keep the core of what Orlando Visual was, which is why I'm so happy that Steven and me and Talia and Katya are still involved in.
And just to speak about Randy and I, over the years, we've gotten to know each other because Randy started writing the drill for Lyman, and it has for Randy. How long would you say?
It's been a while. And as I
Yeah,
tell, the band director at Lyman every time, if every band director in the country that I work with was like Bill at Lyman, this would be the best job in the history of the world, because it's such a wonderfully professional organization that we just have a good time doing it. And I'm attracted to quality, and Lyman is all about the quality. So
also, I've felt the support from Randy because he started coming to my dance shows. He's always been very open. I'd say, could you come in and take a look at the show? He's like, tell me a day I can come in and give you 10 pointers, or send me a video. And so this relationship has been forming for a while, and the respect for each other.
awesome. And so I've seen you've been posting lots of updates on Instagram of the Guard and coming clinics, and it looks like you have quite a team assembled. And how did you assemble? How did you get all these people together? I know some of you were already connected, but like, how did Randy get involved? And I mean, I saw there's a big list of staff. So how did you get everybody in, and how did you decide who would take on what role?
Yeah, this winter, Aaron and I, were working with Pegasus A, and we kind of got introduced to Randy through that. Randy did all of the staging and design stuff for that A Guard. And it was just kind of an immediate connection.
Yeah, we clicked pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
Randy might say otherwise, but I feel like
Spill the tea, Randy.
now there was some clicking going on, that's for sure. No, I'm the same way. I'm very passionate, and sometimes the passion can come across a little bit directional, and just a little bit. I just have high standards. I know what I want things to, how I want things to be, and there was an immediate. I mean, like day one, I was like, okay, those are the two people that I've been missing in my life, and here we are by chance in this little gym, and it was literally from day one. And I trust them.
thank
Yeah, but
goodness we have this on tape.
I know, but the main thing is I trust them, and that's a big thing for me. And of course, I trust and adore Stephen Porter. But these were two new people for me. I'd heard their names. I had said hi in the passing or whatever, but it was an immediate trust and connection, and we saw things the same way.
That's awesome. And I would take that as high praise given from somebody with, your resume and track record. I mean, running Choctahatchee for so many years. So, if somebody of your stature came in and said, oh, yeah, these two are great. Yeah, Kismet, want to work with them. That's high praise. And yeah, you have it on tape, Aaron. You're right. I won't edit that part out for you.
Perfect. I think it was kind of a learning process of what Randy wanted and what his expectations were. And once I think Chris and I were able to figure that out and know exactly what he wanted, which he was always very upfront and clear about, it just meshed really, really well. Mm-hmm. And then another kind of piece of Kismet is later on in the season, Stephen Porter actually came to one of our Pegasus A rehearsals, and I feel like we hit it off because I had always looked up to him and really admired him. And so it was kind of surreal to have like Randy and Stephen Porter in the same room watching me run a color guard. And it was crazy. And I think that clicked. And then you came in for us again and wrote some of our dance choreography. And you guys, Chris and Stephen, have known each other for a really long time. So it was
when I came in that day, I came in to see what you were doing, but when I realized you were running the rehearsal, I stayed a little longer to really like witness it all and see you do your thing. And I was impressed, and that's why I came back when you asked me to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So are members of your team working with other programs as well? Are you all kind of just focusing on Orlando Visual? Because we know color guard instructors always work with 17, 18 different programs every winter, because we love doing it. Are you still like affiliated with Lyman at all or anything like that while
Yeah, I'm
doing this?
still the teacher there. I have in the last 10, 15 years gone around the world and back designing different programs. It can get to be a lot flying around, using all the extra time being away from home. I think these days I really like being home in Orlando. So I'm going to enjoy teaching my program at Lyman and focusing, I think, mostly on this team.
Yeah, I travel quite a decent bit in the winter. I stage for some groups out in Texas. I usually take a trip or two up to Atlanta to work with like Kennesaw Mountain, Noir, Reverie up in that area, and then I do a lot of virtual choreography stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. And those Georgia guards, man, they are exploding right now. It's
Oh, absolutely.
another, you combine Georgia with Florida, and it's a huge hub of color guard now. What are some of the hurdles you've come across as you've been working through your comeback? I mean, trying to find gym space. I mean, are you in with the schools there? I mean, with being a teacher, like, has that been like an aid? It's like, hey, I work at the school. Maybe I can get us into this. Maybe generate interest, funding, any kind of hurdles you've come across?
I definitely think rehearsal space is always. It's different than a scholastic team. I've always thought that it's about a third. A third is of what you bring in for dues is your rehearsal space. A third is what you put into the show, and a third is usually the trip to Dayton. It hasn't changed. The struggle to find the right places that are affordable. I would love to say that, it's gotten easier, but it hasn't. And every administration that kind of comes through deals with things different. I've been putting most of that on y'all lately.
Yeah. It's been pretty challenging. I think rehearsal space and then obviously costs. With restarting everything, we have started from scratch, from $0. And so finding ways to generate income so that we can pay for rehearsal facilities has definitely been challenging.
Yeah, a lot of the initial costs, Aaron and I fronted, like, filing all of the paperwork, getting the insurance and stuff
Yeah.
was all kind of, upfront. But what we had with Orlando Visual that a lot of programs don't have is we had an alumni base and kind of a history to pull from. And
We
so,
really tried to tap into that as much as we can, and we're like so incredibly grateful for the alumni
absolutely.
who have been really supportive from day one. They found out that Orlando Visual was coming back.
Mhm.
They've really backed us, I think.
Yeah, and so Aaron had this idea of what did
Well,
we call it?
it was really Randy's idea.
Oh,
I'll give
I
Randy
didn't know it
credit.
was
It
Randy's
started
idea.
with Randy, and then I took it and ran with it.
Yeah, it was the what?
10 for 100.
10 for 100, just like a social media thing where folks can donate to kind of help us get a jump start. And the reaction that we saw was kind of staggering. Within just over a day, we raised $1,000, which was an absolute game changer for us because it really did make things more manageable and not coming directly out of our pocket. And that's the hardest part of this is getting that initial jump start.
Yeah.
And we were really, really lucky to have so much amazing community support.
But as Orlando, as a program, philosophically, I feel like we've always been the team that we've always striven to give the full experience.
Agreed.
We really have never paid staff because we've all been able to carry those roles in the past. So the funds in the past have all gone to, we wanted to make sure that they are on the most beautiful set, on the most beautiful floor. They have the jacket, the bag, the all the bells and whistles. We wanted to make sure that when they came to rehearsal, it was a sure spot.
A good
That-
member experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to retain membership. And I completely understand, the upfront cost. I mean, I mentioned it. I tried starting my own and it failed. And just, yeah, the insurance, like $600 here, registering here, you got to do the nonprofit stuff. Then you're finding rehearsal space, and the cheapest space I could find up here was $70 an hour. And you're just like, I want to use it for 10 hours. Okay, I need $700 to reserve this space. And
Exactly.
I mean, it adds up very quick. And then you're talking, oh, I got to find a floor somewhere. A lot of borrowing. Any bits of advice for anyone listening that might be thinking of starting their own program in their area? I know we've just kind of thrown out some, like, be aware of the upfront cost, but just kind of anything that with the process you're going through, you're like, oh, it'd be great. It would be really helpful if I knew this right when I was starting.
I think have an idea of what you want the values of the organization to be and kind of let that sort of drive where like how you grow and how you develop it. We started off with a pretty good idea that we wanted to kind of put education first and be more than just just a color guard. We want to have community outreach. We want to have mentorship programs. We want to have all of these things. And I think that has driven us to look, in some different places for resources and facilities and things that maybe you wouldn't normally look to. And I think that like that came from those values that we set straight up front. And I think that that's a really important thing that can kind of help drive the growth of an organization.
And I think too, making really good notes of what has worked so far and what has not worked. We just had one of our first clinics back since 2015, which was super exciting. And I know you, Chris, kind of like made a document of what worked really well and what didn't work well. So that way we know going into our next clinic, like where we can improve upon. So really just keeping record of, again, what's good and where we can be better, because we're always striving to be better. So
Something that I was always aware of as I started, especially getting the world class talent coming in, is that I was aware that I was teaching the next crop of instructors, designers, teachers that were going to come about, and it really came true.
Mhm.
And as I was teaching, I was like, you have to model the ways that you want to see the future students learn. You got to do it right, I tell myself. And I'm proud of it. I can look out and see the sea of teachers and instructors, and they're all doing great jobs, and that makes me really proud.
For me personally, I look at Orlando Visual, and we've all talked about this, as almost like an escape for the members. They're going to go through the week and they're going to have work and they're going to have school and they're going to have family and they're going to have issues and they're going to have stress. And I want Orlando Visual to be the place they come to on weekends to get away from all the things during the week that stress them out, and let them find their creativity and their performance outlet, and let it be a place, a safe space for them, so that we can generate a positive experience for everyone. This is not really about building career color guard people. It's about building good people. It's about building good humans who love to perform and want to do the things that we're going to do. And just let it be that safe space. Let it be that fantasy land you get away so you can get away from all the things that go on during the course of the week.
Absolutely. And having a great culture is a way to, one, keep people and then get more people in. Because if you are that great place to march, we know Color Guard is full of drama. We know this, right? Nobody can pull the floor without yelling at each other. So if you can have that happy, good culture, that's as drama free as possible, people are going to flock to the program, even if the success isn't there immediately. But people are just like, it's so much fun to march there. The staff is so cool. It brings people in. And if people leave and say, it's a nightmare, your program's doomed. So yeah, I agree. Get a great culture going. What are your individual roles with the program now that with the new iteration? So I'll have you each go. So Chris, what are you going to be your specific role within the program now?
So I am on paper the creative director. And so I think I will do a lot of kind of the organization of kind of how we're going through the design process. I'll do a lot of the choreographing for the show and kind of manage any like supplemental choreographers that we have coming in, just to make sure that everybody understands kind of what the overall vision is and kind of like what within that, everybody's role is to accomplish that vision holistically. And I'll do some kind of ad hoc, like administrative stuff on the side, just for the organization as a whole. But I think primarily it's more kind of managing choreographers and sort of like taking Randy and Steven's ideas and trying to, mesh everything together and make it great.
How about you, Aaron?
So my role is primarily the education director. So kind of, I guess, a very administrative role, similar to what I was doing with Pegasus A, running the rehearsals, putting the schedules together, making sure everything kind of stays on track from like a day-to-day rehearsal perspective, but also working with our great technical team to make sure everybody is on the same page for everything and that we're delivering as quality of an education as we can to our performers. And big shout out to our technical team that's led by Carlos Bautista Bab. We're super excited to have him on board, and getting to work with him is, again, really exciting. So yeah, just kind of more of the educational aspect, kind of administrative.
Excellent. Steven?
My role this time is a little bit different. I used to take on the roles that Chris is taking on this time, which I'm passing that on very willing. This time it's more just in design. Randy and I have talked that together we can stage and design and be the creative force whenever you guys need us.
And Randy?
Just what Steven said. I'm going to share the design responsibilities with Steven. And I think, another role that Aaron may chuckle at a little bit, but I do think that I also serve as just a general resource for the activity and how it all works. But my primary responsibility will be working in tandem with Steven under the watchful eye of Chris. My gut feeling is he's going to be really hard on the two of us. So we're resting up now. We're resting up now.
Yeah, absolutely. And having a mentor with a lot of experience is always a good thing. Always a good thing. What do you expect to be your biggest challenge with returning after a 10-year hiatus? What do you see as your biggest challenge?
I think it's like a staying relevant, because I know what Orlando Visual was. I can remember being a 17-year-old in high school, sitting in every FFCC show, like wanting to be in the front row to watch Orlando Visual 2013 Man's World because it was the best thing I'd ever seen. And I think it's finding that like fire and that spark that really excites people of today's day and age so that we are relevant again.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of second that, like most high school kids were in elementary school or middle school probably elementary school at this point when Orlando Visual was around the first time, so they don't even know who we are, and so I think a big hurdle is kind of letting people know, who we are, and the history that we have, I think, is definitely important, but also like where we're gonna, kind of push towards in the future.
Yeah, you're making a new first impression, and you don't want to be the hot dog guard. That's what we call it up here. It's like you see that guard entering the gym, you're like, oh, let's go get a hot dog, right? That's the hot dog guard. And it just as a sidebar, so you have posted the older shows on your Instagram. I've seen them on there. So Man's World is on there. It's a great one. The Sitting by the Dock of the Bay is on there. Your 2011 show, I don't know the name. I think it was Mirror Mirror or something like that. That's also on there. So if you want to go watch them, they're on there because, we don't put things on YouTube anymore. So
the only one we're missing is 2015, which was the Chimney Sweep show. We are working to recover a copy of that in some form. So if anyone has one, so we can digitize it and get it up.
Yeah. Any Florida people out there? We know there's always those people out there that have all the DVDs. So reach out to Orlando Visual if you have 2015. So I know you just put this on Instagram, and this isn't going to air until after this weekend, but you can disclose it if you want. But what class are you planning on competing in? I will tell you, I voted on your Instagram, and I voted open. So
we are planning on premiering in Independent A.
Okay.
So I laughed a lot when I was watching people vote on everything, and I was like, there is so much confidence that we're going to come out as a world-class color guard. We will be an Independent A.
Excellent. Love the A class. backbone of the activity, support the A class. So I had a follow-up question. So when you were deciding to come out in A class, did the rule change to independent open age limit have any play in your decision? Like, did you maybe toy with open more, knowing that they changed the age limit to give people 2 more years, or were you already kind of set? We're going to just come out in A.
No, I think we were pretty sure that we wanted to start in A and like kind of go back to really where it all started in 2011. Like we started in Independent A. Now the goal this time is to stay in Independent A through the whole season. But I think it's important to build a foundation, and I think that to do that, we want to start at kind of the foundation of the classes within WGI and allow ourselves to grow naturally and organically as time goes on.
I want to add something to that as well, because we talked about this, but like for me personally, and this is maybe a little bit more of a personal thing for me, but with the reboot here and the starting over with Orlando Visual, I I have spoken to Chris and Aaron, probably more than Steven, about it, about how for me the target audience here are the young kids that are graduating out of high school who want to learn how to do this at a higher level and haven't really been doing this a lot. That they can, this can be their first home, their first experience, and we can nurture them and teach them and craft them into being, great performers. I think that that's kind of the target audience for me. And like I say, it could be a little bit more, a little bit more of a personal opinion, but I adore the A class if it's an A class. When it's really the A class, when it's really the younger kids who are learning how to do this and being, being willing and able to learn and take the next step. But that's kind of where I am personally.
No, I agree 100% because in my area, we have one independent color guard. It's an independent open guard. They were fourth at Dayton this year, but most of the schools are regional A, borderline A class, like lower level A class guards. So there is no entry level guard for them. So it's a huge jump. If you have those talented kids that can make it in, great. But it's just that was kind of my reasoning for trying to start an A guard is like we need an A guard in this area. And I think no, it's an excellent way to nurture the activity and it gets a lot of people in, because like, oh, there's a new guard. Oh, it's a world. I can't march there. Should we expect you at WGI this year? Is that the plan?
Of course.
Absolutely.
That's the plan.
That is the plan. And since you'll be a new guard for most people, like you were talking, like most of the people, kids in your area, this is 10 years now. So what would you say we can expect to be your style? If there's like a current program you could compare yourself to, whether it's entertainment like AMP, artistic like Onyx, or maybe a guard like Paramount, where you just kind of get something different every year. Is there a guard out there or a style you kind of feel you're going to be portraying?
All the things that you just said are things that I always find important to appeal to all the people in the audience. I've always wanted to be the team that people run into, even if you are standing at the concession stand line. I've wanted to be the show that people want to run in to come in and see. And I don't ever like to be kind of put in any corner that's like we only do one kind of style either. So I like that to be a surprise.
So wait and see. Wait and see. I get that, everybody runs to the gym for AMP, but I think at that level, even guards like Onyx that do the artistic, they're not entertainment focused, right? They're more the art form. Kids still flock to the gym for them, because they are so incredibly talented. And then you have guards like Paramount that just.
I think there's a way to appeal to all of them at the same time.
Well, and something that Chris and I have talked about a lot is kind of keeping like as much as we can of the original identity. So I think like watching the historic shows is a good way to kind of see like figuring out a way to kind of intertwine the like what Orlando Visual was with what it can be, and kind of like modernizing that too.
It's going to be high quality, and high quality is going to be the thing that will make Orlando Visual Orlando Visual. We're going to all set high standards and do this really well. And I me personally, I always like to go into a gym wherever I am and create something based on what I'm hearing in the soundtrack and around and with the people I'm around. I very rarely, if ever, am thinking about any other team when I'm in the process of creating. I just take the music and see what we can do with it.
Sounds great. And so you all will be competing in the FFCC circuit, which is the Florida Federation of Color Guard Circuit, correct?
Yes.
All right. And just for people that might be listening, so some notable groups that are in your circuit currently, Scholastic, there's Oviedo High School, Timber Creek, Lyman, Bartram Trail, Tarpon Springs, William Boone. And then on the independent side, you have Tampa Independent, Open and World, USF, and UCF, which I always get mixed up. And I know they're bitter rivals because one of my very good friends went to one of them, and I am not going to say it because I'm going to pick the wrong one. Um, but big circuit and very, very close to SWFGA, which is the Southern Florida organization. What is your circuit like? Because I do want to talk about Florida Guard because there are people that always reach out to me. I'd love to hear about these circuits, especially the ones that do championships after date, and people are just mind blown by these circuits. And you all kind of do something a little different where you have Florida Premier, which is a huge deal, and it is early. So what is that like? What is it like competing in the season and preparing for Florida Premier?
This is usually second to third weekend in January. I'll tell you from a scholastic standpoint, it's a lot to leave for Christmas break with the kids and maybe have started something before you leave. Me personally, I take the second week of our Christmas break and I bring, the top team in. It's almost necessary to have a good portion of the show out and reasonable. We usually have a nice panel of judges for the premiere, many WGI judges that come for that first show. So it's important to get a good read and a good section of your show out there for them to see. It can really set you up for a great season. It's early so that you can, if you do have to make some comprehensive changes, it's early enough to do that. I think the independent team has it maybe a little bit easier. They're not coming out of marching band field season straight maybe into a dance show. They're already rehearsing a lot on the weekend, and we're probably preparing since October for January. So they have a little bit more of a timeline to work with, I think.
There's like a big excitement, at least this past season. Like that was what we were counting down towards, like for all of those rehearsals through kind of like November, December. Is like we are counting down to premiere because it is coming, whether we like it or not. Like it's going to happen.
In the moment, I think, I hate that it's so early. Later on, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for it. I will say about our circuit, they're so organized and so the way that we talk about rules and amend changes and just they're an example.
Really well run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole country looks at Florida because we know your premiere is so early. Like you said, it could be the second week of January, which is absolutely insane to me because most circuits don't start till first week of February. So you're 2, maybe 3 weeks ahead of everybody. And then we're all scouring YouTube looking for anything that might have gotten posted, especially guards like Tarpon. Everybody wants to see what Tarpon's doing. Is there a ton of pressure to be done for premiere, or how much, like, because you've been doing it for so long, like what's the true goalpost for premiere? Like how much do you want on the floor in reality? Like, I mean, obviously you would love to be done, but I mean,
I think for the people in this room, the four of us, we like to be done. We like to at least be what we call skeleton done. We want it to start. We want it to be in the middle. We want it to end. We want to have costumes. We want to have a floor. We want to have flags as much as we can and put it out there.
Skeleton done.
I like if you went to a musical theater show, you wouldn't say, "Oh, they didn't put the last 2 numbers on." It should feel like a show, whether it is completely filled in the manner it's later going to be or not. It should feel like a full show.
That's what I mean by skeleton done.
Yes, I hear.
When do guards get started down there? Because premiere is so early. Like, I mean, is it like right after marching band, or how late does marching band go? Because it's Florida, so it's warmer, so y'all can go later. It's
Well, if you're Orlando Visual, our soundtrack has been in production for over a month already. So, That's how we're doing it.
I think for independent, it's easier to get started a little sooner. I think
Absolutely.
for Scholastic, it kind of depends on maybe how well your football team is doing, as it does with everywhere, like
Mhm.
how many football games you have to go to.
Well, marching band tends to go a
It
little
runs
bit
a
later
little
here.
later,
I think normally isn't
November.
championships like the week after when BOA is normally?
It used to be. This year it's going to end on November the 15th, which is a week earlier than it used to end. So that's good.
Wow, that's still pretty late though.
And for a majority of the bands, it will end the weekend before. The 1A, 2A, 3A classes will go the weekend before.
That's crazy. And you want to give the kids some sort of break. So yeah, maybe like right after Thanksgiving, you're just go, go, go. That's wild. So that gives you like maybe all of 6, 7 weeks to get ready for premiere. That's crazy. For a scholastic. That's crazy. Um,
Well, and Steven's even crazier because he spends just after Thanksgiving, he spends about 2 weeks putting together a dance show where he's not really working on the
But
Winter Guard
that's
show that much.
but that's actually been worked on since September. Like I've been working on that. But you're right. I do have to kind of put everything on hold for a second
Correct.
to produce a quality.
There have been years where you didn't start the show until after Christmas and we still came out full for premiere. So he's a crazy man.
wow. What's it like being a Florida Guard? I mean, because it's very competitive. Like we talked about we ran down the list of some of the notable names. And what is it like competing in such a competitive circuit?
But what you find in the Florida Federation is once Premier is done, most of the top level independent teams never really see each other again until they go to a regional. Because the circuit is so big, there's different shows in different parts of the state. And very rarely will those independent teams end up at the same show. And they don't see each other again until either regional or championships. It's different a little bit in South Florida, the South Florida circuit show, because it's a smaller circuit and there are only a handful of shows. So those teams have a tendency to see each other almost at every show, but not so much in
When
Florida
it all comes
Federation.
together, I feel like when we get to WGI, we've set all that aside by then, and it's like we're just cheering on for our Florida teams.
I will tell you that Florida is competitive, but there's also a great amount of support throughout the state. I mean, many of us will go to the teams that we compete with and help. We all help each other. We give each other good, meaningful feedback, and it is competitive, but it's competitive from the standpoint that we use that drive to help each other to raise the standards and continue to get better. We all just want to
Yeah,
be good at what we're doing.
I absolutely agree. I think there's a really strong sense of camaraderie here, and I've lived in a couple different places, competed in a couple different circuits, and it does feel very unified here for whatever reason.
That's awesome. And yeah, that's a trend I've noticed kind of building in guard in like the past, like I'd say 5 to 6 years, maybe a little bit longer. I mean, I don't want to be one of those back in my day people, but when I marched, in the late 90s, early 2000s, we hated each other. Like you did not help people. I mean, you were trash talking people, oh, they were awful. And then you fast forward to now, it's just like it's very supportive. You're still competitive, right? You want to win, but you're not doing it at the expense of your competitors, right? I love that it's become so supportive because the sport is so small and so niche, and just being able to have that community and uplift each other. I mean, you hear the stories of the 80s of the drum corps getting into fist fights, right? Like the buses unloading and then just getting into straight up fist fights. And it's just like, we're progressing further and further away from that. Is color guard a class in Florida like it is in Texas and stuff like that? Like do the students take it as a class in school?
Yeah, but it's not quite like
No, not
in
like
Texas. Like in Texas, where I was a director, I was the full-time.
you were employed by the school.
Yeah, so I was in class every single day, doing rehearsals every single day. Down here, there's a lot of folks that may be directors at multiple different programs, so they can't make it to every single class. So a lot
Yeah.
of times, they may not have, a color guard person in the class. It may just be kind of supervised by the band director, and they're given some assignments to work on by the director. There's a lot of different ways I think that people handle it.
I know when I was in high school, we had it one year and then it was gone the next year and then it came back. And then, so I think it's kind of based on need. I mean, I know like in
I
Seminole County where you are, it's a different story, but
Not every school has color guard class. there's probably as many who don't have an actual color guard class as do have them. So I know several of my programs have them, and several of my programs don't have them. It's purely extracurricular.
So I do kind of have a question. This wasn't on the outline, but just something I was curious because, in color guard, you look at WGI, we kind of have 4 color guard hubs, right? We have California, Texas, the Mideast, which is that Illinois, Indiana, Ohio stretch, and then you have the Florida and I would say now Georgia area. Why is color guard so popular and successful in Florida? What do you think is the reasoning behind that?
I can kind of base it off of our time in Texas. When we were in Texas, we were competing with dance teams, which were really popular at the school. And I mean, some schools have dance teams, but the county that I grew up in, at least in my area, we didn't. And so that was kind of the option aside from cheerleading. It's my experience. That was like the choice.
Down here, I think no matter what, everybody has a marching band,
Mm-hmm.
and a part of every marching band is a color guard. So
Yeah.
I think that's still, whether it's a small one or a large one, that ideal is still strong, even in the struggle of
Yeah.
schools. We're going through a time right now where students are given the choice down here to go to school live or do it online. Marching band is one of those things that's still bringing students to school, and so we still have color guards almost in every
Yeah.
school.
Well, and I think too, whatever that just brought something to my mind is for the longest time we've had a marching band circuit and the FFCC. The championships event is this giant spectacle, and I think it makes every kid feel like they've just performed at DCI or performed at WGI, and I think that even just that little like tiny thing at the end of the season keeps kids coming back for more.
So FFCC championships are held in Daytona Beach, and I think that's a huge draw.
Mhm.
It's so fun. You see pictures of the teams after they perform. They like run out to the beach and they like go in the ocean, and it's this huge event. And I mean, I missed that when
Mhm.
we weren't in the circuit. And it's something that everyone here really does look forward to in
Mhm.
FFCC.
And now that FFCC is into a third, our new division, the FFCC outdoor circuit, the marching band circuit, which has 120 members in our third year, it's going to only continue to solidify the presence of FFCC in every program. So I think that will continue to grow and produce even better color guards.
It's always kind of been the running joke. We talk about it with Texas and Florida of, you guys don't have to deal with the weather. I mean, you do, but, compared to the New England guards, you're not dealing with 20-degree weather and snow. And if you don't have a gym, you can just go outside in the parking lot. Does that actually happen in Florida? Like, do you have parking lot rehearsals? Is that common or?
Absolutely.
Very, very common in South Florida. Extremely common in the South Florida circuit.
I remember days in high school where Stephen would have us out in the courtyard of the school, like pushing us around. We had to put trash cans on the sides of the floor so it wouldn't blow away.
Yep.
Um,
The good old
yeah,
days.
that's a real thing.
And I think it's a little eye-opening at shows. A lot of us spend a lot of time outside at a warm-up, and it's only when we get to WGI and we realize people only use their allotted,
People don't do that anywhere else.
they don't do
Yeah.
that anywhere else, that we realize how different it is here.
Yeah, like I said, when it's 30 degrees outside, you can't go outside and warm up your Saber sixes. You'll be chopping your fingers off. Do that.
In return, though, like in this time of year when we're going out for a marching band, it is so hot. I will tell you, as a instructor or director, I have to put my game face on and tell myself how much I don't want to go outside right now. They cannot see that or read that on my face, or else we're done.
It also will rain for a month every fall, and nobody can do anything.
Right. Yeah. The summer you have the 3 o'clock storm that comes through every day. Right. We were talking about that before we recorded. Do you all ever mingle with the South Florida Guard? Like, I mean, I know it's a pretty decent drive down. Like, where is that border between your circuit and theirs? Like, do you ever go down to their shows? Do they ever come up to yours?
I actually think the independent teams through the years is how I got to know all the performers from South Florida. We would see each other at things. We became friends. Eventually, we ended up on some of the same teams because some of them would start to drive up this way. We would start driving down that way to be a part of other teams. That's how we got to know each other. And I'm still friends with some of those people to these days, even though we've moved on and moved other places. But it really did start to mix.
And I was just going to add that they're not that anybody ever takes advantage of it, but there's actually a reciprocal agreement between the two circuits that an FFCC circuit member can go to a South Florida circuit show at no charge, and the South Florida circuit team can go to the FFCC circuit shows at no charge, just to try it out or to come make a visit. But no one really ever does it because a lot of people don't understand the geography of Florida. But if you're going to go to a show in Broward County, and most of them are in the southwestern part of Broward County, with traffic, it can be 4.5 hours from Orlando. If there's no traffic, it's more like 3, but there's never such thing as no traffic in South Florida. It could be horrific, but there is a reciprocal agreement. The two circuits do work hard together. We actually have a combined show every year where we do an FFCC percussion and winds show in conjunction with the South Florida Color Guard Circuit show. And at that time, there's usually a couple of FFCC color guards that come down for the show as well. But just because of cost and travel, you don't see a lot of mingling with it. I'm a little prejudiced about the two circuits because I'm the director of FCC Outdoor for the Florida Federation, serve on the board there, and I'm the chief judge and education director for the South Florida Circuit. So we're doing a lot of work to do to make things cordial between everybody.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So Florida regionals, there's usually one in Orlando, right? And then they usually do one in Northern Florida, I think, right? Usually, or how does that usually work with the WGA regionals?
It's pretty much Tampa and Orlando, or Tampa and South Florida, or South Florida and Orlando. It's usually 2 of those 3 cities. Not North Florida, though. North Florida is too close to the Atlanta market.
Gotcha. Okay, so they just make them go up there. And hopefully this year we get a flow marching regional down there because we did not get one last year, which was a travesty. I'm sure there's a lot you want to tell us about this upcoming season, being that you're coming back out. So we'll start with spin camps, clinics, auditions. When are they and where can we find that information?
Yeah, so spin clinics, we just had one this past Sunday in Orlando. After that, we'll have another Orlando clinic on August 30th. It'll be in the Orlando kind of Winter Park area. And then we will have auditions September 13th and 14th.
To be determined where location currently?
Likely in the Orlando kind of Winter Park area.
Gotcha. And obviously you're Orlando Visual. Are you based solely in Orlando? Or are you kind of calling it Orlando, but you're kind of near like another location? Like for people that might be interested, like, because I know like neighboring cities or whatnot, or like kind of what area you're in.
We're pretty central to Orlando, but if we find a deal on a rehearsal venue, we're not opposed to, kind of scooting 30, 40 minutes outside of town, but pretty much pretty central to Orlando.
Gotcha. And so you'll be competing in FFCC, and you're planning on going to Dayton, planning on doing 1, maybe 2 regionals. I mean, this year it's going to be so different because they have the Regional Plus program now, and they're adding so many more. So I think that's really going to mix up the calendar for everybody. Where can we plan on seeing you competing wise? Besides Premier.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, definitely Premier. I think our plan is to do both Tampa and Stewart, just to try and get as many reads as possible before WGI.
And where can we find you on socials?
We are mostly on Instagram at Orlando Visual Performing Arts. And we also have our website that is orlando-visual.com. That's where you can find all the information about the clinics. We're slowly filling the website out with about information for the staff. If anyone's interested in purchasing any merchandise, we have that on there. All the information's on the website.
Yeah, something else that's on the website that we're, really trying to push this year is we have an application for our mentorship program. And the way that works is you're paired up with a mentor based on what your interest is. So say, I'm, coming out of high school and I want to learn more about how to choreograph. You'll be paired with somebody who that's kind of their specialization. Same thing for design and
Education.
technique, whatever your path that you want to take is, you'll be paired with a mentor there. So that application is up on the website.
Yeah.
I believe the application closes, I want to say October, the end of October, maybe.
And all of our mentors are people on our staff, so you'll get to work directly with us.
Anything else you want to mention about Orlando Visual or kind of the coming season, history, Florida, Color Guard in general?
I'm really, really excited to bring it back. I think that it's going to be definitely a learning experience. It's for everybody involved. I think the members will be able to learn from these like really fascinating, amazing people that we have, like Randy Nelson and Stephen Porter. That's a huge, huge thing. And I think it'll be a learning journey for all of us too. Like we have all worked together before, but I think this is kind of a new way of working together. So I think, it'll be, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do have one final question for you, just because I like to ask everybody this because it's always fun to hear their answers. So just going to ask you what your favorite show of 2025 was that you got to see. So if you've had time to think about it, if not, I'll let you stew on it for a minute. But I'll start with you, Chris. I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Okay, I can take it. So I think for me, it was El Dorado High School in Scholastic World. I thought that the set was striking right away with those arches and then the arches that kind of came forward. And I thought the students were so well trained. I thought everything was written so smartly. It wasn't so difficult that the kids looked or felt frantic. They all seemed so in control, but they punctuated moments with these skills that just kind of made you jump out of your seat. And I thought the moments where they would pull, everybody behind those arches and then just the flag pops out, like little things like that, I thought was really, really cool. And it was breathtaking. I loved it.
Agree. Beautiful show. And the first 2 minutes having zero pulse.
Oh, I know.
And just like,
Crazy.
Aaron, how about you?
I am gonna say Little Elm High School was my favorite.
You can't say that. That's what I'm going to say.
You stole my answer. Well, for multiple reasons, their show was amazing this year, absolutely stunning. Chris and I kind of got to know Little Elm and compete with them in NTCA, and we've really admired their program for, the 5 years that we lived out there. And it was just so exciting seeing how successful they were this year. And it was so well deserved. And just Little Elm High School, big fan.
How about you, Stephen?
I'm gonna have to say AMP. They played to my heartstrings. I love disco music. I just look at how much detail went into putting that program together and still making it flow, and the individual expression that generated from it. Gosh, there's so much detail in the costuming. I think anybody, even if you didn't know what color guard was, if you watched that, you would become a color guard lover.
Agree. Yeah, that soundtrack. I mean, yeah, AMP was up there. I think Warren Central was technically my favorite. I just loved it, but AMP's definitely number 2. That was such a fun show. How about you, Randy? You want to change your answer?
No, it's Little Elm. Little Elm to me was like taking a bath in sophistication and quality. Everything about everything they did was impeccably thought out, produced, and just the quality and the sophistication of everything they did was amazing. I'm all about all about those two things, but I was mesmerized by them. So no change. Sticking by it. Erin copied me. She heard me say it.
I mean, there's no wrong answer, and people can have the same answer. I mean, Little Elm was amazing. I appreciate you all so much. Look out for Orlando Visual this year. We will be looking for your premiere. I'll be scouring YouTube looking for you from premiere, and lots of information on the Instagram page. You'll be announcing what class. You've already announced what class you'll be in, and you'll have a clinic coming up at the end of August. So I wish you all the best of luck this season.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Once again, I do want to send a special thanks to Filth Marching FX for help sponsoring this episode. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in and listening to each episode. I love doing this podcast so much, and it makes me so happy to hear from people who are also loving it. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could take some time to rate and review the podcast wherever you download it and to tell all your friends. Allentown is this upcoming weekend, so good luck to all the corps there. I will be watching, but I will not be recapping that competition. I have more episodes coming down the pipeline and plan to release another one next week. So until then, stay safe, stay fabulous, and remember, at the end of the day, it's just flags in a gym.